great to be here with you guys today. A slap in the face, you say. Our offers aren't good enough, you claim. We didn't come to the table with anything of substance, you said. The WNBA owners are playing chess while the players are...
An insult. That's how the WNBA Players Union describes the ownership's newest deal proposal. And after reviewing what team owners actually offered, that response reveals everything about where these talks are truly going, because either the athletes have totally disconnected from financial facts, or there's something hidden in these figures that we're missing on first look. The organization just shared their CBA proposal details with ESPN's Ramona Shelburne. And this wasn't random. This was a planned strategy to create public pressure and make supporters and journalists wonder the same thing. What exactly are the athletes demanding here?
Goals for a win-win CBA. 1. Substantially increase player salaries to reflect recent and future business growth. Recent. I like the sound of that. I like the sound. Recent. They're alluding to something. These owners aren't fools. They're alluding to something. Promote business health and profitability. Sustainability. Nafisa Collar, you know what sustainability is. Oh, you don't. Oh, you don't know what it is. Oh, okay. Promote business health.
Let's begin with the cash, because that's what everybody's thinking about. The existing top salary in 2025 was $250,000. Team owners want to raise that to $1.295 million in 2026. That's over 5 times what the current cap allows in one single year. By 2031, they're estimating top salaries at $1.87 million with a floor of $1.5 million. And if the organization reaches better income goals, that figure jumps to $2.4 million with a floor of $1.8 million. We're discussing possible 10-fold growth over 6 years. Typical player earnings follow the same path from $120,000 in 2025 to $540,000 in 2026, almost $500,000 as the middle point. By 2031, the estimate lands at $780,000, possibly hitting $1 million per athlete if income distribution plans work out well.
All right, let's take a look at some numbers. WNBA CBA revenue sharing proposal, projected player salaries. Total salary, base salary, indeed. 2025, this last past season, prior CBA actual for the Supermax, $250,000. 2026 projected, $1.295 million. That sounds good. With a base salary of 1.1, not bad.
But here's where things get fascinating. Team owners didn't simply dump cash at the pay issue and walk away. They added charter flights for preseason, regular season, and playoff contests. This has frustrated athletes for years, with players sharing images of themselves stuffed into tight middle rows on public airlines while their male basketball peers travel on private aircraft. They're creating 2 fresh development roster positions, which opens more opportunities, better chances for athletes fighting for spots, increased maximum salaries and veteran deal extensions, additional guaranteed deals per franchise, wage coverage for injuries that finish seasons early, a complete set of family support programs they're naming the Becky Hammond policies, addressing everything from pregnancy needs to leave options for non-birthing parent policies. And then you see the minor specifics that show just how stripped down the old CBA truly was. Mandatory family areas at games, smartphone health record applications, faster initial salary payments each year, mental wellness programs, freedom to put money into and promote sports wagering, fantasy, and marijuana brands. Now, here's what's creating the biggest buzz on social platforms, and honestly, it's exposing things the athletes probably didn't plan to reveal. Tucked into this group of upgrades is one detail that's getting criticized on every site: complimentary WNBA League Pass for athletes. Consider that for a moment. The old CBA, which finished after the 2025 campaign, didn't provide free league pass to the actual athletes in the organization. They had to purchase their own access just to view their performances. Free All-Star Game passes weren't provided either. These represent essential perks that should exist in any pro sports agreement, and yet the player negotiators missed them entirely. This creates a basic question about power and bargaining ability. If the athletes couldn't get free viewing access to their own organization in the previous round, what does that say about their strength during discussions? What does it expose about how capable their union representatives really are? Team owners want to boost the income split from about 9% to roughly 15%. That's a 67% rise in what athletes receive from organization earnings. And they're linking future wage increases straight to income results. This means if the WNBA keeps the energy from the Caitlin Clark period, those pay forecasts might beat even the hopeful situations they've presented. But the Players' Union keeps demanding 30% of complete league income. That's the percentage they continuously return to during talks, 30%. And this is where the core disagreement becomes totally obvious. The WNBA hasn't earned profit once in its 28-year run. It's received NBA funding since it started, and the operation dropped around $40 million in 2024, even with historic attendance and viewership powered mostly by one athlete's first season. Broadcast figures increased 170% for contests Caitlin Clark participated in versus contests without her. The Fever's crowd numbers rose from around 4,000 supporters per game to filled 17,000 capacity venues. So when team owners mention sustainability and earnings in their plan targets, they're not dropping corporate language. They're outlining a survival challenge. The operation must end the financial losses. It must show it can operate alone without NBA financial backing. And that situation shapes a bargaining setting that's completely unlike what athletes in profitable organizations face. NBA players can request 50% of basketball-connected revenue because there's genuine profit to share.
Presence and suspicion. With the fighting largely concluded, the nature of the alliance shifted again. Armies that had moved with urgency now slowed, not because the war demanded it, but because occupation required deliberation. The presence of American and Soviet forces across Europe was no longer temporary or tactical. It had become administrative, political, and symbolic. Control of territory brought responsibilities that extended beyond military order. Cities required governance, food distribution, and security. Infrastructure had to be restored enough to sustain civilian life. In these tasks, differences between American and Soviet approaches became more visible, not through conflict, but through method. Soviet forces operated within a framework shaped by central authority and long-term security concerns. Their presence was closely tied to political restructuring. Local institutions were monitored, reformed, or replaced to align with Soviet models. This was not presented as expansion, but as stabilization. The memory of invasion remained central to Soviet decision-making. American forces emphasized administration with the expectation of withdrawal. Their focus lay in maintaining order, supporting reconstruction, and transferring authority back to civilian control where possible. This approach reflected confidence in distance and industrial recovery rather than territorial depth. These contrasting methods existed side by side. In some regions, boundaries were clear and cooperation routine. In others, uncertainty persisted. Decisions about policing, information, and movement carried weight beyond their immediate function. Emotionally, this phase was marked by suspicion without hostility. Each side observed the other closely, interpreting actions through historical experience rather than current necessity. The alliance continued, but it was no longer reinforced by shared danger. For civilians, the experience of occupation varied widely. Some encountered structure and predictability, others faced abrupt change. The presence of foreign forces brought both relief and anxiety. Liberation did not mean uniformity. It meant adjustment. Military leaders understood that this period would define influence. While agreements set formal boundaries, realities on the ground shaped outcomes. Authority was exercised not only through policy, but through daily interaction. This chapter does not suggest that conflict was inevitable at this stage. Instead, it shows how difference solidified into awareness. The alliance had succeeded in war. Now it faced the complexity of peace. Communication between American and Soviet officials remained formal and measured. Disputes were addressed through procedure rather than confrontation. Each side avoided escalation, recognizing that stability remained fragile. Yet the absence of fighting did not erase uncertainty. The shared enemy was gone, and with it, the unifying force that had justified compromise. What remained were two nations with distinct visions for Europe's future. Emotionally, the tone remained restrained. There was no sudden shift to rivalry, only a gradual narrowing of cooperation. Fatigue from years of war encouraged caution. Leaders focused on consolidation rather than expansion. This phase demonstrated that alliances forged under pressure do not automatically adapt to peace. Structures designed for survival struggle to accommodate stability. The United States and the Soviet Union managed this transition without immediate rupture, but not without distance. By maintaining presence rather than withdrawing fully, both sides signaled intention. These signals were interpreted carefully, often defensively. The result was an atmosphere of guarded coexistence. This chapter represents escalation not through action, but through permanence. The war had ended, but its consequences settled into place. Power now rested not in movement, but in position. The alliance endured, but it did so on altered terms. Cooperation became procedural. Trust remained limited. The focus shifted from defeating an enemy to managing coexistence. What had once been an alliance of necessity now stood at a crossroads shaped by the end of fighting, not of division. With active combat drawing to a close, the attention of both American and Soviet forces shifted from engagement to administration, logistics, and reflection. Even as battles ceased, the consequences of years of conflict remained evident across every aspect of occupied Europe. The landscape was scarred, cities partially destroyed, and populations strained by displacement, loss, and scarcity. In this environment, the alliance was no longer defined by the shared necessity of defeating a common enemy, but by the management of territories and the subtle negotiation of influence. For Soviet forces, the years of attrition and sacrifice on the Eastern Front shaped every decision. They approached occupation with an emphasis on security, seeking to prevent any resurgence of threat and to consolidate control over regions considered critical to long-term stability. Local administration was closely monitored. Resources, labor, and civilian activity were organized to ensure functionality under a centralized system. The goal was survival extended into permanence, reflecting both past trauma and anticipated challenges. American forces, by contrast, approached these territories from a perspective shaped by distance and industrial capacity. Their emphasis lay on stabilization, reconstruction, and preparing the framework for eventual withdrawal. Logistics, civil affairs, and the support of local governance were central priorities. The United States operated under the assumption that order could be maintained while respecting local autonomy, though this approach required coordination with Soviet forces where zones of influence intersected. The alliance continued in practice, but the rhythm was now administrative rather than tactical. Interaction between the two forces was frequent but careful. Meetings, joint planning sessions, and exchanges of information maintained operational clarity. Each side observed the other, interpreting actions not as gestures of hostility, but as indicators of long-term intent. While no direct confrontation occurred, these observations contributed to a cautious environment in which cooperation persisted alongside emerging awareness of divergence. For civilians, the period was one of adaptation. Communities engaged with soldiers and administrators from both nations, navigating differing approaches to governance, resource distribution, and public order. The presence of foreign forces, previously a temporary necessity, now carried implications for social structure, economic recovery, and political alignment. Families responded to these circumstances with pragmatism, maintaining routines and reconstructing lives in the shadow of past disruption. Emotionally, the tone of this period was defined by reflection and endurance. Soldiers, civilians, and officials alike faced the consequences of prolonged conflict. Fatigue, loss, and displacement shaped daily life, tempered by the steady movement toward stability. There were no celebrations